Okay, good. Baruch Hashem, good. Okay, today is Hilchos Nidarim Perek Gimel. Perek Shlishi. What page? That's a good question. What page are we on in the big book? 560 something? No, Perek Nidarim. Perek Shlishi. That's probably page 560 something, I imagine.
No, Darn, Sushi.
Yeah.
534.
534?
I don't know. That's right.
Okay. Bad estimation then. Good.
Is that correct, everybody? Hello?
It starts with Arba Dvarim?
Yeah.
Good. Perfecto. Okay. Hilchos Nidarim Perek Shlishi. Arba Dvarim Yesh Ben Darim L'Shavuos Bitei. There are four things that differentiate a neder, right? When a person declares something forbidden to himself, versus a Shavuos Bitei, when a person makes a Shavua not to do something. The person says, I make a Shavua, I swear I'm not going to eat meat for the next week. That's a Shavuos Bitei. Or articulation, right? And the nether is when he says, I declare all meat forbidden to myself for the next week. So how are they different? A Shavuos Bitei and a Shavuot Chalal Shavuot. When it comes to a Shavuos Bitei, one Shavuot cannot take effect on top of a second Shavuot. So you if you say, I swear I'm not going to eat this piece of meat, and you make the same Shavuot a second time, the second one does nothing, it adds nothing. When it comes to a nether, it is chal. So a person says, I declare this piece of meat forbidden to myself, and he says it a second time, then he eats it, he's violating two nedarim. A matas of shua, someone who grasps a shua. 534. A matas of shua, someone grasps a shua. What's that grasp? We'll see in a second. Your putter. When a darim comes to the darim chayiv, however, a person is chayiv. Now we'll define that in a minute. And the fourth, this is one of the most important differences. A shavuos bitei only is relevant when you talk about matters of rishus, things you could do or not do, like eating ice cream. But when a darim cholas al divi mitzvah, the rishus, however, when it comes to neder, it can be impactful even on a mitzvah, just like it's impactful on something which is not a mitzvah. Shavuos bitei chol al davar sheish b'mamish al davar shein b'mamish, and an articulated shavua can even be chal on something that doesn't have substance to it. We'll see examples of that. Or whether it does or does not have substance. However, a neder only is relevant if it's a substantive item. So I'm just going to explain all these things now in detail. Base. So you can go through all these examples, break them down. How can one neder take effect on top of another neder? If someone says I am obligated to bring a carbon if I eat this kikar of bread, essentially he's saying that he's making a neder to bring a carbon if he eats this kikar. That's basically one of the ways of making a neder. And he says again, I'm accepting a carbon upon myself if I eat it, and then he goes and eats it. So essentially he made two identical nedarim. Chayiv al kol achas achas. He's chayiv two korbanos for eating this one loaf of bread. The same thing applies in all situations. When it comes to a shavua, as we said in Hilchos Shavuos, I don't remember the exact perek halacha. Over there we said if a person says, I swear not to eat this piece of bread, then he says the second time, I swear not to eat this piece of bread, the second shavua is irrelevant. And if he eats, he's only violating one shavua. Now we did say if he does hataras hashavua on the first shavua, then the second one surfaces. But the fact is that in terms of violating the shavua, only one shvu is present. Oh, that was going to say why. Eventually the reason is because the Abishur said so, but he's going to explain the svara. Okay, Gimel. What's an example of matvis nedarim grasping a neder? Person hears the fellow make a neder who says, make a neder of any kind. And the guy listening says, and immediately the guy listening says, I am like you. Also, whatever neder the other person made, then the person who says, I'm like you, is obligated in the same nether. So if he made a nether, he's not going to eat meat for next week. The guy who says, I'm like you, is also eating meat the next week. If there's somebody else, the third person hears the second guy who said, I am like you, right when he says, Va'ani and me too, that's a bad term to use now. Even there's a line of 100 people, and each one of them said, in succession, and I am like you. So Reuven makes an nether, I'm not eating meat for a week. Shimon says, me too. And Levi says, me too. And this is me too. Even 100 people, each one of them says, each one of them, again, within the time it takes to say the words, so it's called halachically immediately after his fellow. Each one of these people is also in whatever it was that Reuven said he can't do.
Do they have to know what the thing is?
You cannot obligate yourself in a neder unless you know what the neder is. Unless you say va'ani al das on your das.
He could have set it up at the podium in front of 100 people, so everybody heard it, and then everybody says, "I'm like you, I'm like you." I'm
Yeah,
like you.
that's if everyone says it immediately for sure. But the chiddush is even the last guy ends up saying it 15 minutes later. Because by the time it goes down the line, it's 1 second between each person. Me too, me too, me too, me too. So by the time it's ready, and 5 minutes later,
So therefore,
still it's chal, still it's chal.
chal, yeah.
That's it.
Even though it's not the even from the first.
Even
guy.
exactly, even though it's not the first guy. Now, when it comes to a shvu, that's not the case. But I swear I'm not going to eat meat for a week. Me too. It doesn't make a difference. The shvu is not chal.
the point is that they all heard it.
Yeah.
The first guy.
No, well, anybody that was in the room heard this guy say that I will not eat meat. Either saying it in line in succession, one after the other, but they all heard it together.
So the word is with Pashtus, they have to have known what the neder was when he says me too.
That's it.
That's the
He
chayr.
says clearly, Shama Chaveri Shenodar.
Yeah.
Shama.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Down. So again, but a shvua not the case. You make a shvua not to eat meat, and I say I'm like you. It's not chal. Unless you mashbi, I mean, I say amen. It's not as me trying to go on your talis with kainim, so to speak. Doesn't work that way. Now, someone who says also someone says this meat is forbidden to me. That's a neder, right? And then after many days, he says over here it doesn't have to be terech dibur because the meat's still present. And he says this bread is like this meat. Over here, the bread is, so to speak, grasped by the meat, and they're both us. So he's now taking the neder of the meat and applying it to the bread, or taking the heter of the bread and making it subject to the issur of the meat.
An extension. It's
Exactly.
extended.
Right. Exactly. Chazom, if the guy then says, like a pasta says, and the honey is like the bread, the yain is like the vash, and the wine is like the honey. I feel like may even 100 different food items. Kul masun all also, because again, this is the principle of tafis, and it applies to neder and not to shavua. So I swear I'm not going to eat this piece of meat. Then he says, this bread is like this piece of meat. That doesn't count. Hey, if a person's teacher or Rebbe passed away on a certain date, he makes a neder, he's going to fast on that day. But somebody taka fasts because he doesn't fast, and the neder's not. He's basically the neder's not chal. I mean, it's chal, but he's breaking the neder, so essentially never began. So you fast tak on that date till after many years. He says, if he says today, he accepted upon himself as the day where his teacher or father passed away, without specifying running a different day exactly. But it doesn't specify what it is, though. It's understood that he means in terms of fasting. And then, therefore, he's also not allowed to eat that day. Because he's essentially taking this day and making it grasped, right, is subject to the same principles of the day which he already forbade himself. Again, the third example of atfasa. So you have people, then you have items, and you have days. The same applies to all these cases. Okay, next case, vav. What does it mean that a neder is relevant, whether it's a divrei reshus or divrei mitzvah? If someone says someone who says on the night of Pesach, 15th Nisan, matzah is forbidden to me, or that's tonight's Pesach, and he says tonight matzah is forbidden to me. He's not allowed to do that, but fine. But 1 second, let's see what happens. Or sitting in the sukkah on sukkah is also to him. And again, the first night of Sukkot, you have to eat in the Sukkah and eat something. The rest of Sukkot, eat potatoes in the house, fine. But the first night, you must eat in the Sukkah. Or he says, I'm forbidden to wear tefillin. He's not allowed to eat matzah, sit in the Sukkah, wear tefillin. If he does, or Yashav, now he has an obligation to go to matzah, neder if he can. But let's say it's not possible. There's no chacham around. If he does eat matzah night of Pesach, or Yashav, he does sit in the Sukkah on Sukkot, the first night of Sukkot, or not all, or he takes to wear his tefillin, like his chayav malchus, for transgressing his neder. However, when it comes to a shvu, we know a person makes a shvu and not to eat matzah night of Pesach, the shvu is irrelevant. When it comes to a neder, it's not irrelevant. Exactly. If someone, needlessly, if someone says they're like carbon in matzah Pesach, if someone says I'm obligated to bring a carbon if I eat matzah night of Pesach, he's chayv carbon. Obviously, he's supposed to eat the matzah as well, because here he can fulfill his neder and the mitzvah. The Chen goes to this thing about all situations. The Ramah writes that such a person should be given shmeist and forced to do Atar Sidorim. But the fact is that halachically, until Atar Sidorim is done, let's say it's not a Pesach and he's by himself, he's not allowed to eat matzah. Zayin. Now, why? Right? Why on a Dorim do take effect when in mitzvah matters? When it comes to shvuah, does not take effect. When a person makes a shvuah not to eat the piece of meat, he's forbidding himself. The prohibition he's placing upon himself whatever the subject of the shvu is, the fence sort of thing is around me. However, the person making a neder prohibits the item. The nimtza comes out. If a person makes a shvua not to eat matzah not of Pesach, he's forbidding himself in the action of eating matzah. But what's the problem with that? He's already he took an oath on Har Sinai. He's got to eat matzah not of Pesach. The first principle is that one shvua can't take effect another shvua. So I already made a shvua by Har Sinai. I'm going to eat matzah not of Pesach. Now I make a shvua. I'm not going to eat matzah not of Pesach. A shvua can't be chal on the shvua.
Right.
You already made it. It's too late.
Right. That's not sure. It's not neder.
Oh, but if I say this matzah or matzah b'chal in the wood was also on me, I'm not forbidding myself. I'm making the matzah forbidden. I'm forbidding the matzah. Matzah didn't take a shvur in Har Sinai. I took a shvur. Oh, exactly. This is where the lashon chefs and gavna comes from. Reb Chaim is famous for taking the concept and applying the kol to kula. But this is the Gemara where it comes from. Exactly. Okay, so that's why when it comes to a neder, I say matzah is forbidden to me. It takes effect because I'm not saying about myself. I'm saying I'm declaring matzah as usher. I have that ability, but the matzah didn't take a shvur in Har Sinai, so therefore the neder is chal. When I say I swear I'm not going to eat matzah, I'm contradicting the previous shvur. It doesn't work. Ches.
So the malchus goes on the fact that you deprive yourself.
The isser, not the malchus. The isser.
No, the malchus.
Oh, if I eat matzah at Pesach.
Where is the? You said before that he gets malchus.
Oh yeah, if I no, he gets malchus for eating the matzah. Because he's over a neder. Now
but even though he's got the mitzvah for eating it.
The chayr, he's yaged the mitzvah of matzah. If he comes to the Rav and asks the Rav, he does a Torah Nidarim for his neder. Now it's 11 o'clock Pesach. He tells the Rav, I broke my neder already. I ate matzah before, but I want to eat more matzah now. Do I have to eat matzah again? He says the chayr answer is no. He was yaged the mitzvah already. You don't say because you made the neder, the matzah is not a mitzvah. Unless the mitzvah baba vera, maybe he's not, because that's already the whole lumdus. And also, why don't you say es decheles say? The essay of eating matzah is decheles say of a neder, and the chayr because neder is also mitzvah say. I think so. That's all right. Anyway, Zayin achas, excuse me. If you look at the yeah. This is the class. This is the muck of the whole concept of Gam Chefza. I don't think the Shas anywhere else is mentioned. This is the muck where it's mentioned. As far as I remember, I mean, whatever, I know there's the whole Shas, but this is Reb Chaim is the one who takes this and implies it everywhere else. Okay, no, Reb Chaim Brisker. Reb Shav is Perel Ponifel. Reb Chaim and Reb Shav are together as kids. Don't tell the Briskers that because they everything. Reb Chaim is like a watered down high school version of the Reb Shavr's, postdoctoral, Greenish. Okay, Ches was started with the this is they're famous for it. Yeah, they're famous for it. Yeah. Because of Nimsa. No, right, exactly.
No, but I'm saying he formulated that.
Yeah, he's famous for taking and applying and making it relevant to all. Yeah.
And what is the How come it's always attributed to him?
No, it's not usually actually, as far as I know. Yeah. Okay, because if you look in the psukim carefully, you find out this idea that a neder is chal on a mitzvah and a shvu is not. You look at the psukim that it seems to imply that. Why should it? What is it? Lahar lahativ, to do good or to do bad, but different rishus, meaning things that are your choice to do good or bad. To eat, not to eat, to fast. These are words of rishus, but not mitzvah though. It says everything articulates you should do by neder. So you see that by a neder, it does not differentiate between different mitzvah, different rishus. So by shvu it specifies lahar lehativ, things that you have the right to do good or bad. You could eat this thing, you can eat this thing. You can make a shvu to eat or not to eat it, fine, but not a mitzvah. By neder it says anything you want. Okay, halacha test. The person who makes a shvu, he's going to fast on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Yeah, sorry, thank you. Makes a vow, a neder. Chayav lotzim, he's obligated to fast. Mitzvah again, the neder takes effect on a mitzvah commission, as we said. So even though there's a mitzvah eat on Shabbos and Yom Tov, but since he made a neder, he's going to fast. He said, so the halach is he has the obligation to fast. The person makes a neder, he's going to fast every Sunday or every Thursday, every Tuesday. And 1 year it happens that the day is Yom Kippur. What happens if Sunday or Tuesday is Yom Tif or it's Erev Yom Kippur? So he didn't make a shua to fast on Yom Tif per se. So he's like chayav lotzim again. He's chayav to fast. Needs to say Rosh Chodesh, which over there the mitzvah having a suda is a lot less of a chiyuv. He's definitely obligated to fast. Oh, 1 second. So Pago beChanukah Purim. What happens if the day he makes the neder to fast coincides with Chanukah Purim? His neder is displaced. Since the chiyuv is iser, fasting, chag, purpose, and rabbanon, they require extra chizuk. People take them seriously. Because it's Gzeres Chacham, it requires a special chizuk. Therefore, it is displaced and his nether is bottled. Now, l'chayri has an obligation to be mata the nether, I think. Now, l'chayri ask Ereshim Kippur also the rabbanon, not chimat Torah. But the truth is that the strong remez. So it's not a chidaraisa to say, but.
The fact that it says that
It's a remez, right? You learn out. So therefore, because there's a mucker in the chumash for it, even though it's a remez, so people are going to take it seriously. You don't have to make chas this way. Let him fast if he wants to. But there's no remez in the chumash, therefore the halachic remez anyway, right? There's hasta aponai, and in the 25th word of the Torah is fine, but it's not a halachic remez, and therefore his neder is overridden by the yomtiv, by the yomtiv of Chanukah according to Rabbanon. Yud. What does it mean when we say a neder only takes effect on something that has substance to it, physical substance? If someone says, "Diburi alecha carbon," my words are a carbon for you, right? Now, if I say my animal is a carbon, my property is a carbon to you, the din is that you cannot benefit from my property. I have the right to do that. Here I say my words are a carbon to you. I'm not forbidden to speak to you, because speech is not a substance thing; it's an idea. You can't hold speech in your hand. You can't put it on a scale. It doesn't have a color. It doesn't have weight, and therefore you can't make a neder on it. If he says to him, my speech is also to you. It's not like he told him my produce is also to you. Or my paris is like a carbon for you. In which case is taka also on him, because paris and has a substance to it. Speech has no substance. Therefore, tells his fellow carbon, I'm accepting upon myself a carbon, though it's like a lashon of neder. It's also on me, like a carbon is also on me, that I'm not going to speak with you. I'm not going to do business with you. I'm not going to travel with you. He says, carbon, I make a carbon, I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to travel. Tells his wife, carbon, I'm making a carbon for prohibition, so to speak. A lashon of neder, I'm not going to be with you. Neder is not chal in all these cases. If he says the carbon, if he says my speech, my marital relations, my traveling, and my behavior is like a carbon. These are all things which are non-substantive, and therefore neder can't be chala on these things. If someone says, however, my mouth should be also, for its speech. My hands are prohibited for their behavior, for their movement. My feet are prohibited for their going. My eyes are prohibited to sleep. In other words, he's making the neder chal on something which is substance. Yeah. Hey, neder chal and the neder is chal. Therefore, my mouth is like a carbon to speak. Not my speech. My mouth is like a carbon from speaking with you. But my hands are like a carbon from doing a action with you. But my feet are like a carbon. They're forbidden from traveling with you. If someone says, carbon, I obligate myself in a carbon if I speak with you, or if I don't speak with him, and he transgresses what he said, he does or does not speak with him, chayav carbon is chayav carbon. He says, I make an in other words, basically, you can't make a neder you did something. Makes no sense. You can make a shua, I did something yesterday. I make a neder yesterday, I said to you, whatever. It doesn't make any sense. So the vort is, he says, I obligate myself in a carbon if I spoke with him yesterday. So he's basically accepting a carbon. That's the way you can make a neder that you did something yesterday or didn't do something yesterday. So dibarti, I accept upon myself a carbon if I did or did not speak with him. These are all the neder schal. These are not the nidarim of Issa that we're talking about over here. That's another neder of hektish. It's a neder of being mechayiv yourself in a carbon based on what you're saying the condition is. So if yesterday I did or said this, I'm chayiv a carbon. And if I didn't, I'm not chayiv a carbon. That's the way I'm being mechayiv myself in this carbon, and therefore it works. Now again, normally we said you can't make a neder. I make a neder. I'm not going to speak with you. That doesn't work. You have to make a neder on something that has substance to it. Over here, when he says I accept upon myself a carbon if I speak with you, and that I can speak with him chayiv a carbon, because that's not a neder. We're talking about that's not a neder of rishus.
Whereas, but
Diburei Yodei L'Maseim V'Raglei, there he's
There's something substantive, right?
right.
Now, if I say I'm obligated in the carbon if I speak with you, I'm not usher in talking to you.
Right.
If I do choose to talk to you, I'm chayav in the carbon.
And it's together of Nidre Hekdesh.
Exactly. That's a whole different story. That's why it's chal on something aim mamish. That's what he's saying.
But it's different if he specifies Pilu Diburei.
Oh,
Yodei L'Maseim.
right. So then it's considered like an actual right. And also, you can't sell somebody. You can't sell something that doesn't exist. You could sell a tree for its pears. So similar concept. Okay, you base. No, I can't make a real kinyan, and now you own the produce of my karka for the next year. That's going to grow next year. It doesn't exist yet. There's no kinyan kanichal. But I could acquire that. I could give you the tree though for its pears coming next year. So similar concept. Oh, you did. Someone makes neder on something which doesn't have any substance, and he asks it in his own head. Even neder does not take effect. We don't tell them, listen, don't worry, go ahead, do what you want. Neder is irrelevant. Since he in his mind thinks it's taka aser, we don't want him to start treating the dome like a joke. So what do? We kind of create a new idea, a side concept. And then based on that, we say, oh, because you did this, you're matter the neder. And therefore, we tell him to have charata, and he has charata, and matter the neder. Even though it's not also really. Why? Because so the people should not take the dharm like a joke. Okay, how long? What was it?